Alberto onto our show, which is super exciting to bring some outside blood into what we do here. Yeah. Michelle is a longtime news anchor. She has worked extensively at Fox News, ABC, CBS, NBC. You correct me if I'm wrong, but I know it's many of these alphabet-style companies, which is really notable and impressive. Michelle, now you also run your own company where you help executives and people like us learn to present better on camera. What got you into all that stuff?
First of all, guys, I love being pioneers. I think we should do like an air high five because I love what, yes, thank you. For doing a split shot, you would see everybody going like this in the air. So welcome everybody. I think it's awesome that we're doing this. Thank you so much for having me. It's funny to hear perspectives of how to be on camera because when you think about it, nobody has training for this, right? We're either CEOs, we're marketing people, we're editors and producers, but it's hard to be an all-in-one expert. And I think it's great, guys. Nathan, Leighton, I feel like I should have a rhyming name myself, but we'll think of one for me. No, I think it's awesome that you did have that perspective in your old job because that's what broadcast journalists do every single day. So I started out my career doing all of the filming on camera. I edited all of my pieces. I wrote all of my pieces, and I would be on scene of a news story, and I would have to set up my shot, press record, then scoot in front of the camera, do my spiel of whatever the news report was, go back around the camera, press stop, and then edit it all together for the newscast that night. And when you break apart all of those pieces, you realize how inevitably that is exactly what we are all yearning to learn right now because video is key for everyone, for every business, whether that's internal video or external video.
That's awesome, Michelle. That's a huge, it's so much to think about and do. It's, a lot of multitasking. I love what you said, though, having to do it all, because I know a lot of our clients, for example, not only our clients, but ourselves, especially when COVID hit, we found ourselves at home where we were doing the same exact thing, where we were trying to set up a shot, and how do you frame up a shot when you're not in it? All these complications are definitely something tricky to learn and pioneer through.
There's a reason why film sets have 1 million people on them, because all of these things are inherently a job in itself.
Right.
Exactly. So knowing all of those, crazy.
Yeah. Michelle, earlier this week, you showed me some content about the work that you've done with clients. It's before and after about the impact you made on someone's presentation. I'm going to have Daniel show this before clip right now, but when we get back, I would love to hear about the story as to how this client fell in your lap and what you guys, I guess, first saw in terms of his presentation, what could be improved. So Daniel, let's go ahead and keep it up.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Jesse McCullough. Welcome to this video where today we will talk about recovering a patient from non-adherent to adherent. With the growing interest in the healthcare industry to improve adherence, we have been promoting improving patient adherence for some time now through our POC, MTM, and patient calls to make programs. I would like to start by saying that depending on where you start from with a non-adherent patient makes a huge difference. It should be noted that it is highly likely that multiple POC encounters will take place over several months for a patient on a given medication to become adherent.
So really quick, Michelle, before we continue, I wanted to let our audience know that if you guys do have questions for Michelle, that you guys should be throwing that into the questions tab. Don't do it in the chat. We're probably going to miss it in the chat. Throw it in the questions tab, and I do intend to try to squeeze in a little bit of time where Michelle can answer some of these questions as well. And then on top of that, I think, I'm losing my train of thought. Good thing Michelle's here. Yeah. Good thing Michelle's here to take it away from me. Michelle, can you dive into a little bit about, how you came to start working with that client and, maybe what you noticed first in that presentation?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the one common denominator that we all have, and many of us feel that we could just walk in front of the camera, or I could just pull up my iPhone, press record, and I'm going to have an amazing video. It was very much the case here too. whether it's your camera in your hand, or maybe you work for a company that has their own built-in studio, and all of a sudden you get an email saying, hey, by the way, we're going to start an internal educational series. You're going to be the host. Fantastic news. And you're like, hold up, wait a minute. What do I do? And I think that it's when you go into a new studio like that, you have to say to yourself, okay, what don't I know that I need to know? Mm-hmm. And that is summed up with this answer. Everything that you execute on camera comes down to this percentage. You guys ready?
Yeah.
75% of prep, 25% of execution. Where normally we think about it the exact opposite way, right? We think like, oh, I'm suave, I'm debonair on camera, I can pull my thoughts together, no big deal, I'm going to rock this, I'll be out of here in 15 minutes flat. Lo and behold, it's the end of the day, you've been in the studio for 8 hours, or how many times have we tried to take videos with ourselves on camera, with our phones, or our Shootsta equipment, and we're like, oh my gosh, how come this isn't looking right? My angle's off. I messed up my words. How come this is taking so long? And I think that it all comes down with that simple equation, 75% prep and 25% execution. So that's fancy language to just say you got to know your message and how you're going to engage your audience. And that takes a lot of prep work before you even step foot in the studio, before you even pull your arm up for your camera, or before you press record on professional equipment.
I absolutely love that sentiment, because that's something that we constantly preach. That's exactly why we wanted to come up with the thesis statement, which is essentially knowing exactly what you said. Know your audience, know your message. And the fact that you put numbers to this is actually, I feel like I'm going to walk away using that forever now, sitting down and saying it boils down to 75% of your presentation is prep. Yeah, and I know we're going to go ahead.
And just to add on that, I think that that's really evident in this video, because I love Jesse, but he walked in and he was like, Michelle, I wrote my script. It's awesome. I'm just going to deliver it on camera. Mm-hmm. Can you critique it? Much to your point before of having someone be your guide, and critiquing it is critical. And as soon as I saw it, I closed our laptop. We were physically together, closed the laptop, and I said, okay, what was this video about? So I turn that question over to you guys right now, or anybody who's listening to us. Does anybody remember what that video was about?
Used cars?
I know it was medical of some kind. I think that's a super interesting point for sure. If you don't mind, let's go ahead and dive into the after, because I know with the planning and everything you're kind of talking about, I know we have the before and after script, and I really want to show that because to your point, like, it's long-winded and it's kind of rambly and it's hard to follow what the point is. And let's not show it yet, Daniel, but let's show the after video and then come back in and we'll talk a little bit about how you got them there and how you transformed their script as well as their presentation to be as good as it is. So go ahead and play that second video, Daniel.
We've all had them. Patients who just don't follow our directions. So what do? Hi, everybody. I'm Jesse McCullough, and today we're going to talk about non-adherent patients and how to get them to take their medications properly. Let's start with an example. Here's Joe. He has been coming here for blood pressure refills since June, and his adherence score is just 60%. Our goal is to get him above 80%. So how do we get there? Step one, it begins with you. Identify the patients that fall below an 80% adherence score. This way, when they come into the pharmacy, you will know to engage them in a conversation, which leads to step two, ask questions. This has two purposes. First, it lets our patient, Joe, know that someone is paying attention to how he is taking his medication. And, even more importantly, Joe will know someone cares.
Michelle, what I love about this before and after video that you showed me is the fact that when I watched the first half, I was like, you know what? That's actually not that bad of a presentation. Mm-hmm. He actually did. He did okay. But then when I saw the second half, whether I think part of it might be the fact that I work in video, right, and I can sit down and recognize some of these things that you tuned up. But whether you can see it or not, you can definitely feel the presentation difference. And I think I hope our audience felt it too. yeah, how did you? Well, actually, what I want to do right now, really quick, is I want to throw on screen, Daniel, if you don't mind, the script that he had. He sent you first, and then kind of what you helped him siphon it down to. And despite the fact that maybe we're not going to take the time to read the entire script, what I want our audience to recognize is how much less of a word count your revision is. I think sometimes when we sit down, we start writing scripts, and we've talked about this in previous episodes of the Shootsta show. You can get a little bit long-winded, and you can start diving into your script and just typing up tons and tons of stuff. But what you did, Michelle, here, and we can go back to Michelle here, Daniel, if you'd like. What we did here is actually or what you did here, sorry, not what we hear. I'm not going to take any of this credit here. What you did here is actually amazing because you took a larger concept and you really simplified it to its key points, the key messages, and what you want your audience to take away. Michelle, if you have thoughts on everything I just said, by all means, please respond. But I'd also love to hear your process in terms of getting a client from A to B.
Yeah, so I think it's amazing because most of us, when you think about, all right, now I have to produce a show, or now I have to do business videos for my own business, how do you get started? And we all revert back to, how did we get taught to write papers in school, right? When we go to English class and we're writing a 10-page thesis on a story that we read, it turns out that it sounds like we're reading Pride and Prejudice out loud. So if you go back to anything that you wrote for school and you pick it up and you start reading it aloud, you say to yourself, what the heck? This isn't how I need to present on camera. So that critical piece of recognizing in and of itself that the way that you write for camera work is completely and utterly different than the way that you know how to write instinctively as taught in school. Once you just conquer that one hurdle, you're going to be so much better off. One thing I'd like to point out with this before and after video is the before script, as you saw, clunky, like I said, looked like an English paper. And then the other side was the broadcast journalism side of every day we have to write stories that are hugely complex, and we synthesize it down to be clear, concise, and conversational. So if you go on michellebordeaux.com or even Shootsta, you guys often will use the terms clear, concise, and conversational. And it's because those are the edicts that you need to follow as you write your messaging down. So step one, for anybody who's like, okay, I still don't know what they're talking about in this webinar, that's the first test. Sit down, write your script, and ask yourself, is this clear, concise, and conversational? Is this clear if I brought this over to somebody who doesn't know what I'm talking about at all, maybe a spouse, a partner, or a friend? Do they understand what I'm saying? Is it concise? Does it look like that novel from 8th grade English, or does it look like a 30-second news report? And is it conversational? And this is the most important one. Are you speaking like you would in a conversation? So this is embedded in, I have my master's in broadcast journalism, and this is what's embedded in school. It's embedded into our brains. It's, are you talking the way that you would tell a story to your mother? That's literally what they tell you in writing class. So that's a question. Put it up on your computer while you're developing your scripts. Would my mother understand this? And would she be able to converse with me back with the messaging that I'm putting together right now? So that's another good reminder that you could have on your computer. With the before and after that I showed you, I teach this in 3 different steps. So the prep work is how to create that message and making sure it fits that 3C test, clear, concise, and conversational. And then from there, all of the work of feeling uncomfortable on camera is practically fixed for you. That's why I always say it's 75% prep and 25% execution, because if I'm giving you words on your teleprompter that are easier for you to deliver, then guess what? You're going to be more comfortable on camera delivering it. So what's interesting in this example is that we didn't even get to the point where we did on-camera critiquing of his presentation skills. All we did was change the wording, because I always want to show people the emphasis is on the messaging. And once you produce great messaging, you immediately open yourself up to be more natural on camera. Did you guys see the difference there?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I love this holistic perspective on video, because what we talk about is the video journey. We often, or at least I talk about the video journey all the time, and it's like recognizing that a lot of these things, script writing and your message, really does trickle all the way down through your presentation and all that goodness. Michelle, unfortunately, we are running short on time, but here is what I want to do, because we need to run a quick Q&A. I would love for you to stay on for the next 6 minutes or so, I think is what's going to go on.
One more thing I want to throw out there. That I know that this is going to be awesome for all the Shootsta customers out there and anybody who's watching this, but I did put together special resources for your audience in particular. So I'm hoping I could throw that out at michelleberto.com/Shootsta/. Don't forget the second backslash. Not
That's amazing.
Backslash.
I love that. That's amazing. I will definitely be checking it out. Daniel, actually, can you throw up Michelle's contact information really quick as we transition?